Well, greetings, folks, and welcome to EDAM 554, which is essentially, in a nutshell, education law. My name is Joe Jarrett, and we'll be working together this semester. I'll bore you for a moment or two with my background and experience, but my first career, basically, I was spent 10 years in the military, primarily as a combat arms officer overseas and paratrooper, etc. Went to law school on the GI Bill, and over the last 28 years, I primarily specialized in local government law as a school board attorney, both here with Knox County and in Florida as well. And interestingly, both states are strikingly similar when it comes to the way we manage our school systems. Uh, I'm also a former juvenile justice attorney, and when you put those two together, basically I spent years in the courtroom litigating K-12 school-related matters, or in the alternative, I was prosecuting people who essentially committed heinous, atrocious, and cruel crimes against children. I currently teach full-time for UT, both in the education department and the Department of Political Science, Graduate School of Public Administration. I guest lecture at the law school, etc. Married to my wife Amanda, who is the smart lawyer in the family, and we have a rescue dog who is a maniac. So there's that. All right, so what are we going to study? Obviously, when you look at education law in the United States, it's constantly in a state of flux. For years, the feds kind of stayed away from education law and they allowed the states to handle it. The feds are getting more and more proactive in terms of litigating cases, primarily because people who are suing boards of education, I'm talking about the local level, the LEA, as we call it, local education agency or school board, are taking these cases to federal court under the auspices of violations of civil rights or deprivation of special needs children, educational issues, etc. So we'll look at federal law, of course, but we'll look at Tennessee law especially because the legislature has been busy and it continues to pass various laws, rules, and regulations that govern the way you folks practice. And the courts, of course, every now and then are called to weigh in as to whether or not those Tennessee enactments by the legislature are in fact constitutional. So this is asynchronous. As you know what that means, it's basically online. Now, I'm always available to you folks. Every now and then, folks will, students will contact me and they'll say, yeah, I know it's an asynchronous course. I know it's wholly online, but can't we do a couple of Zoom sessions? Yes, is the answer. So if a group of you want to get together and just say, we really don't understand this whole idea of the IDA law or how certain federal laws impact local education agencies, we'll set up a Zoom and we'll do it. But, you'll use Canvas, of course. That's where we'll post the assignments under the module section. So we'll use my UTK email, yours as well. And also, we'll have at least one telephone check-in. I've got it set for June 14th. Look, I realize you guys are working professionals. If that day is impossible, let me know. But what you're going to find when you go to Canvas and you go to the calendar option, basically, you'll select course, which will be this one, and then you'll say find appointment. You'll see a sign-up sheet basically in June 14th, starting from 10 a.m. to 3:50, 20-minute intervals. And this is merely for you to let me know how the first week went, what you look forward to in the course, where you think you may need some assistance, where you may have an issue that you'd like to have discussed that may not be on the syllabus. So that's what that is for. We don't have to take the whole 20 minutes. You may just say, look, I'm fine. This is not my first rodeo. I understand the concepts. I understand the law, the policy. I don't need your help. Fine. Or you may be struggling with something or just have questions. But that's kind of our, one-on-one get together. There will be times when I'll post an assignment and I'll ask you to respond to one of your classmates' responses after you've responded to yours or posted yours. I'm required to tell you this, but as adults, as you well know, you don't attack each other. You don't basically use it to excoriate one another. You respectfully and politely comment on what someone says, and if you disagree, you do so in a non-disagreeable manner. You just basically say, I looked at my classmates' comments, I disagree, and this is why, and that's all well and good, and that's fine. We just kind of got to watch the personal attacks. And, keep to 250 words. If you go over 250 words, that's not going to affect your score. It's just that normally you want to be able to keep these clear and concise. But if it merits more wording or more verbiage, use it. I don't care. Uh, so I'm not going to sit here and just read slides to you. I'll just augment them. But the bottom line is we're going to look at federal constitution, the state constitution, how they interplay, how little known things like, for instance, even most attorneys are comfortable with emerging law, case law, and the enactments of the Tennessee legislature. They really don't look at the Florida Administrative Code. Now, that's an oddity because the Florida Administrative Code is basically written by the Florida Department of Education, unappointed people. But that authority has been delegated to them. So we'll get into the FAC, the Florida Administrative Code, as well. But basically, we're looking at all the different rules, laws, and regulations that affect the day-to-day lives of people in the classroom or in the central office, or even school board members as well. So we'll look at all those things. The interplay between staff and policy and tenure, whether or not there should be school resource officers in schools. What's the law on that? What do we do when people appear at school board meetings and they say, I'm a sovereign citizen and I don't recognize your authority to teach my children, or they become unruly? Can they be evicted? All these other things. There's just a virtual panoply of things. What are the rights of children who are going through a transitioning phase or whatever, or process, I should say. But nevertheless, we could talk about these hot button issues as long as we do so objectively and professionally. What most people really tell me, especially aspiring school administrators or people who are already in the system, the bottom line is, look, here's the deal. This is all well and good. This is fascinating. When do I call you? When do I call my lawyer? So we'll look at those things. There's a time and a place. This is not the kind of course we're going to teach you how to do in-depth legal research. So if something happens in your classroom, you say to yourself, I better look at Tennessee Code Section 49.2.3 sub B, paragraph 2. You're going to sit there and go, oh, crap, I better call the lawyer. So that's the kind of thing we're going to be looking at. Now, when do you actually get on the phone? But you want to know leading up to that what those danger signs are, because they may seem innocuous, but there are certain things where it's just best to bounce them off if you have a legal department. So we'll look at K-12 law, the emerging trends, and basically where we are and where we may be going, depending upon what the feds and our state courts and state legislature do. I'll be posting assignments. They'll appear every every Thursday, because the course begins on Thursday on June 9th. So they'll be there starting at 8 a.m. and they'll be there till the following Tuesday to 11:59 p.m. You really need to keep up with these. We got a short, fast and furious semester. So again, it may make perfect sense to me. I may give an assignment. I think, oh, that makes sense. And you may look at it and go, what the hell is he talking about? Well, then you call me or you text me or you email me and we'll get that clarified. Many times people will have a question. That means at least another half doesn't have the question. So I will normally post something in Canvas email and say, one of your classmates has asked, without identifying that person, and then exploring what the issue is or answering the question that's arisen. So again, we have an honor code, be respectful to one another, complete all your assignments, communicate with me if there's any delays, and we shouldn't have any problems whatsoever. Me, of course, my duty is to you. You're the consumer here. That's why I'm here. I am here teaching because of folks like you. You take these courses. So, I'm cognizant of the fact that there's licensure attached to a lot of these, that this has to be something that's meaningful to you, and that you're evaluated fairly and equitably, that I'm respectful to you, and again, that I make myself available to you. I don't know how many times at the end of the semester a student will come to me with a virtual panoply of questions, and I'll say, why did you call me? Well, I don't want to bother you. Well, this is my job. You're not bothering me. Believe me, I spent almost 30 years as a lawyer. My clients never hesitated to call me if they had a problem or issue. They never thought, no, I know we're going to court, but, I don't want to bother them. No, you're not bothering me. That's my job. And that's basically how I've done my job all these years. Textbook. I don't assign textbooks. Now, there's always a big debate on these. I think most education textbooks do not apply to this course. They're usually written for law students. They're usually a couple of $100 a piece. They're usually outdated. There are some things out there that aren't bad. And if you want a recommendation, if you just feel comfortable having a textbook, but I'm not going to require you to buy one when there's so much free stuff out there. I'll be assigning to you to read. Everything from the Tennessee Administrative Code, Tennessee statutes, case law, federal and state. So you'll have enough to do than reading a textbook and then regurgitating it back to me. I just don't see the purpose for it. Now again, my colleagues disagree. Usually the ones who disagree are those who have written a textbook on education law. I have not, so I'm not going to assign one. Little note on disability services. Again, you'll have this PowerPoint. You can look back on these. I also have to put in nedequate. Isn't that clever? But basically, how we're supposed to treat one another and be patient with each other, stay on topic, no personal attacks, etc. I'm not going to belabor that. You know what the deal is there. But again, just have clear, concise, open lines of communication between us. Basically, there'll be 4 modules with various moving parts, reading and writing primarily, and discussion assignments. So the way that'll basically work, since there's 4 of them, roughly, 15% to get us to 60, 10% for participating in the discussion board and the capstone project. And the reason I keep participation to 10, because it's opinion, okay? I'm not asking you, again, I'm not going to sit there and say, for this discussion item, explain to me Tennessee Code section 49.2.2. No, you're adults. What I want to know is what your opinion of a certain law is, and then comment perhaps on one of your classmates' analysis and see if you agree or disagree. Then, of course, there's a required dreaded capstone project. I'll get to that in a minute. There's the grading scale. Okay, so the capstone project. Tennessee just overhauled the Tennessee Teachers Discipline Act. The governor signed it into law. And the way that act works basically goes into everything. Disciplining students, maintaining control of the classroom, etc. So what I'd like you to do for this final project, as you can see, is to analyze this bill. Merely because the legislature passed it doesn't mean it's a good bill. Now, you may look at it and say, I think it's a fine bill, and that's fine. But I want you to really analyze it, synthesize it, pick it apart. Where do you think it's wanting? Is it clearly written? Is it vague? Is it ambiguous? Is it something only a lawyer would understand? Would a person of reasonable intelligence understand it? And does it apply? Can we have a one-size-fits-all bill like this? These are the kind of things I want you to kick around in your paper. And again, it is your opinion. So as long as you give a good solid analysis and you support your analysis, you're going to do well. This is not the kind of thing where you get on the internet and start pulling out research on this, because again, you have the research, you have the bill. It's whether or not what you do with the bill in terms of analyzing and synthesizing it. It is a quasi-legal assignment, because when you're in court and a judge says, I want you to brief this case, or I want a memorandum of law on each counsel's position, that's basically what you're doing. You're explaining to the court the strengths and weaknesses of a piece of legislation, either arguing that it's unconstitutional or arguing that it is constitutional and the court should abide by it. So in that context, that's what I want you to do, is kind of look at it, with the standard analyses, issue, rule, analysis, and conclusion. So that's basically what I'm looking at there. And again, questions about this, you let me know. Contact information from me, and I'm looking forward to working with you folks. So again, a lot of stuff to accomplish in a short amount of time, but I think that you'll enjoy the course, hopefully, and I do think that you should leave the course with a better understanding of where you stand and the legal rights and privileges of you as an employee, of your fellow employee, of your students, of that school resource officer, if she or he exists. But it's just a good background and analysis of the current state of the legal affairs of K-12 today. Take care, stay in touch, and like I said, don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great day.